So it's time to learn this absolutely fantastic technique to find any chord. So there are many different types of chords you can play on the piano, but we're going to learn the most basic one, and it's called a triad. And it's called a triad because it's 3 notes played at the same time. And these 3 notes are an interval of a third apart from each other, which is really handy because we've just learned what an interval of a third is. So if we interval of a third from C, as we know, it's C to E, and it's really recognisable because on the stave it's just 1 note stacked directly on top of another one. So to create a triad chord, all we have to do is add in a third note, and we do this by adding another interval of a third. So if we take an E and we count up an interval of a third, we get to G, E, F, G. And quite simply, we can just stack another note on top of the E. So it looks very recognisable, and it's very easy to work out that this is a C triad chord. The C to an E is an interval of a third, and the E to a G is also an interval of a third. And we can do this from any note. So if I just pick another note at random, let's say an F, and I stack 3 notes on top of each other from F, this is an F triad chord. The F to A is an interval of a third, and the A to C is an interval of a third. And we can do this for every single note. So if we look at the C major scale, you can see all of the triad chords from C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, of course, there are 12 notes on the piano if you include the black notes, and you can make triad chords from the black notes as well. So we've got 12 triads we need to learn, and there are 2 different types of triad. There's a major triad and a minor triad, which actually means you've got 24 triads to learn, which is quite a lot, and for a lot of people that's just too many to remember. So what is absolutely fantastic is that I can teach you today the most brilliant formula I've ever learned, which means you can find any of these 24 triads. Any, which means you can play any song that you want in the entire world. It's the best formula you can learn. It might seem a little bit complicated at first, but it really isn't. The moment you understand how it works, you'll be able to find any chord you like. So the first thing you need to understand to be able to do this technique, and we're going to call it the big small technique. I've heard it referred to this online from a few different piano teachers, and I think it's the perfect way to describe it. So it's the big small technique, and you need to understand that intervals can be major and minor. So this goes for all intervals. Obviously we're working with the interval of a third, so you can have a major interval of a third and you can have a minor interval of a third. So what you need to know is a major interval of a third is made up of 4 half steps on your piano, and a minor interval of a third is made up of 3 half steps on your piano. So let's take a look at the major interval of a third. We know it's 4 half steps. So if we're starting on C, and you can do this from any note you like, including the black notes, but let's start from C because it's nice and easy. We just need to count up 4 half steps. Now we don't include the C, so we put our finger on C and we count up from there. So C to C sharp is 1, to D is 2, to E flat or D sharp is 3, and to E is 4. So there's our 4 half steps. And this is a major third interval. Now if we want to find the minor third interval, we count up 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. So this brings us to an E flat. So the major third interval is C to E, and the minor third interval is C to E flat. But the important thing to remember here is that the major third interval is 4 half steps, and we're going to call this big. So all you have to remember is big 4 half steps. Now the minor third interval is 3 half steps, and we're going to call this small. So all you have to remember is small 3 half steps. So let's take a look at a major triad chord from C. We want to find out what is the major triad and what is the minor triad. So if we start on C, we go big, then small. The big is 4 half steps and the small is 3 half steps. To find the minor triad chord, the small goes first and the big goes second. So it's 3 half steps followed by 4 half steps. So you're just switching it. So major triad is big, small, and minor triad is small, big. And that's all you've got to remember. And let me show you how easy it is when you look at this on your piano. And we'll try this out from a few different notes in a minute. So if I pick another note, let's pick the F, for instance. Now, if we want to find a major triad chord from this F, and you don't have to call it a triad, you can just say an F major. F major is fine. So we want to find an F major. We know this is big, small. So that's 4 followed by 3. So from the F, let's count 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We found the A. And then it's 3. So 1, 2, 3. We've found the C. So our F major chord is F, A and C. Now let's find the F minor chord, which is the other way round, small followed by big. So from the F, let's do the small, which is 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3, followed by the big. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is our F minor triad. Nice and easy. There is a simpler way you could do this. You could just find the major triad, which is big, small, F, A, C, and just drop your middle finger down half a step to find the minor. And that works just as well. Major, minor. And you can hear the difference. It's happy, sad, major, minor. So let's try this from one more note. I'm going to pick a black note. So let's say we want to find a C sharp major. Excellent, there's C sharp. We want to find the major, so we know that's big, small. So 4 half steps followed by 3 half steps. So we start on the C sharp. We count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We find an F. We then count up 3, our small. 1, 2, 3. We find an A flat. And that, or a G sharp, whatever you'd like to call it. And there we have our C sharp major triad. Now, of course, we can just drop down the middle finger by half a step to get the minor. There's the minor, major, minor. But you can count to find your minor. Remember, to find the minor chord, you just switch it. So it's small followed by big. So from the C sharp, we would count up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's our minor triad. So if I were you, I'd write this down or print it out and just keep on practicing it for all of the notes on the piano. Because what it means is you can play any song just by looking up the chords. If you want to find out what a G major chord is, you go to the G, you know it's big, small, 4 followed by 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. There's your G major chord. So you can always find that now with any of these chords, and it's such a fantastic technique. So I hope you have lots of fun trialing that with all of the notes on the piano, and I will test you on it in the exercises this week as well. Okay, so there you have it, the big small technique so you can find any major or minor chord. And I am going to be testing you on that this week in the exercises. So I'll be giving you some notes and you need to find the chords from them notes. But more importantly, we need to be able to use this technique when finding songs to play. So I am going to do that with you now. I've picked a Beatles song called Let It Be. It's a nice simple song, so I know it's a good one to start with. What I need you to do is go onto the internet, type in Let It Be by the Beatles with chords or something to that effect. So Let It Be chords or Beatles Let It Be chords. And what you'll find is what will come up is a lot of examples of the lyrics with the chords written above it, especially if you click onto images. So once it all comes up, click onto images and you will see lots of different variations of this. And just find one you like, and I'm going to go through that now with you, because sometimes you're going to see things on the chords that you don't understand. But what we're looking for is the capital letter, the first capital letter. Now, some composers might put lowercase letters on their chords, but usually you're going to see a capital. But let's have a look. Now, if we take a look here, you can see that the major chords will be a single capital letter on their own. And the minor chords will have a small m next to it, like this. So this is what you're looking for, capital letters or capital letters with a little m, which means you're playing the minor. Now, you will come across a few things that you don't understand while you're searching for chords, and here are some examples of what you might see. And these chords can look really complicated, but actually all you have to do is ignore any extra numbers and letters that come after the chord. You're just looking at the very first letter, which in this case is a C. So you can play all of these chords as a C major, and they will all work in the piece you are trying to play. But do remember to look out for a little m. So if these had little m's after them, then you would play them as a minor. You can still ignore all the extra letters and numbers that you see, but just take note of the very first letter and then whether it's a minor or not. The other thing to remember is your sharps and flats, because obviously some chords are going to be derived from the black notes. So if you see a C sharp like this, then you'll be playing from the black note, and you'll be doing your big small technique counting from the black note. And the same with the minor. If it's got a little m after it, it will be a minor. Now remember, when you're sharpening a note, you're just raising it by half a step. And when you're flattening a note, you're just lowering it by half a step. So if it says C flat, you're just lowering it by half a step. And as there's no black note to go down to, you'll be going to a B. So a C flat is actually played as a B. But this is a really complicated chord, and it's very unlikely you're going to come across it. Obviously, if it has a little m, it's a minor. So this does prepare you for what you might see, but for the majority of songs that you're looking up online, the chords you're going to see are just going to be basic chords and relatively simple. So if we take a look at what I found online when I typed in Let It Be by the Beatles with chords, this is one of the images that came up. So I've written it down and added in the chords. As you can see, the first chord is a C, and how this usually works is they'll place the chord above the lyric where they want to hear it, and then you just hold that chord down until it changes. So in this case, I will play this C when I sing find. So it would sound like this. When I find, and then you'll play the second chord, which in this case is a G major, because we're just ignoring the 7. You play that on times. So the first line will sound like this. When I find myself in times of trouble. And then you go on from there. So when you get to Mother, you'll be playing an A minor. And then we'll be playing an F. When we get to, that's kind of between the two, so just play it where it feels right. And then we have a C major, a G major, an F major, and a C. So if I was to play this whole song, this is what it would sound like. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Okay, so you should now be able to go away, search for any song you like, find the chords, and then be able to play that song. And what's really important is you remember the different chord techniques we used in the taster lesson. So I showed you a few different ways to play the chords and to make them sound really professional. So do go back to the taster lesson and remind yourselves of what we did so you can apply this to the chords of the songs you find. And remember, some of these songs are going to have some flats and sharps in them as well. So if you're looking at a chord and it says E flat, you need to remember you're building that chord, whether it's a major or a minor, from the E flat. So you'll be building the chord from the black note, not the white. So don't let that trip you up when you're looking. And if you have really enjoyed learning about chords, then do take a look at my Chord Jammer course as well, because we learn everything about chords in there and how to use them and how to sound like a pro.